today and talking about healing the avoidant pattern from a narcissistic family dynamic. I'm going to talk about two aspects that I experience. The first is a very codependent and enmeshed relationship with my mom, and then the second aspect I'm going to talk about is this avoidant pattern, which seeks to avoid intimacy and love in any way possible. Of course, you don't necessarily have to end up with an avoidant pattern from a narcissistic family dynamic. You could have various different kinds of attachment styles, but the avoidant pattern is the one that I predominantly experience, and it's like this plastic wall. A desire to get close to others, but then pushing them away before anything can threaten the security and stability, or perceived stability, of being able to be in control. Because if you develop feelings for someone, you could get hurt, and that's scary. And one way this showed up for me was, first of all, denying feelings that I felt for someone, trying to invalidate and diminish the value of that person, and also arguing with this pattern that wanted to have some kind of happy ever after ending with this person. And you can see where you've got a pattern warring with another pattern. So there's this desire for connection, but just also a pattern for desiring security and stability, trying to seek that in another person, along with this fear of ever actually being in a vulnerable, intimate relationship. And you know what? It can be scary. It can be terrifying to be around someone who can see into your soul, can see you, and who can pull out all those fears of intimacy, fears of not being good enough to have felt or experienced love from your primary caregivers. A deeply intimate relationship can pull all of that out of you and can feel terrifying. And your mind can come up with all sorts of justifications why you need to get out of there. But if you're really aware, you can recognize that's what you're experiencing, and you can look at the situation you're in with discernment and be able to tell if this isn't a healthy situation, or if it is a healthy situation and that person is supportive of your growth. You might have to be the parent who is there hand holding your inner child, and you also might have to set higher boundaries than what other people have, just to provide yourself the level of protection that your inner child needs to feel safe. If you find yourself oscillating between this fantasy of everything working out with this hypothetical or real person, which oscillates to fear of intimacy, of commitment, you can recognize that these are patterns that are playing out and being integrated into you. You are processing and learning from your experience, and it can take yourself a while. Give yourself the time and space that you need to process this, and if you're dealing with someone else, you're allowed to communicate that you do need extra space and time. You're not always able to articulate everything that you're experiencing in the moment, but letting someone know in your life who is witnessing you going through this, it allows them to have a better idea of how to support you through this. And that can be just by giving you that extra space and time. The situation that triggered the intense feeling of codependency and enmeshment with my mom was her getting scammed when she was trying to buy a car. So this was a stressful situation. I felt pressure to help her to solve the problem. I felt this intense anxiety within me, this fear, this not knowing what to do. I didn't feel peace that everything was going to be all right, that it was all working out perfectly, although I did have some awareness that this was triggering this pain within me to be healed. But still, I still felt pressure to try and fix the problem, to solve the problem. Even problems that aren't necessarily yours to solve. It's a really difficult thing to let people have their own problems and let them work through their own problems. Because if you solve everything for someone else, you are taking away the gift of learning from the issues that come up in their life. And this is where the issue of that enmeshment and codependent attachment comes in. It feels painful to see my mom experiencing pain. But this brings up a lot of self-judgment within my family, a lot of shame about resting, about spending money, this fear of not having enough money. All of this emotional tension was triggered and brought up. It was extremely uncomfortable, and yes, you can try to take action, but ultimately you do have to feel through the own pain that's coming up within you. Sometimes the desire to take action can be an avoidance of actually feeling through and integrating that pain. And what we're really doing is moving from an old level of consciousness to a new level of consciousness. So there's gonna be energies within you that have to be let go, that have to be shed. It's not a pleasant process. This is the part of the transformation that is very uncomfortable. It's something that there can be a lot of resistance to, but the less resistance you have, the more easily it passes through. It's really more the anticipation of feeling the pain, which is worse than feeling the pain itself. Recently, something I've been doing is thinking of my parents as gremlins. There's all this chaos, all this havoc, all these problems in their lives, and then I think, well, of course, because that's what gremlins do. It's not their fault. And yeah, their life is difficult, but it's not something that I need to go back into a survival, fight, flight, or freeze state for. It's a natural part of their life experience, and it's a little trick or technique I've used to release that pressure that comes from that enmeshed codependent pattern. We are going through the tunnel, the dark period, and the light is emerging from within this. So as you move through whatever you're going through, you can bring some lightheartedness, some humor, some joy. Invite that in wherever it's appropriate. There's no avoiding the heavy, dark periods and emotions that we go through, but you also have freedom to feel whatever joy and peace and whatever beauty you can find in the situation that you're in.